during these trying times. So next, I want to tell you a little bit more about our presenter, Cheryl Morrison. So she is a senior Salesforce solution engineer, and she has been working with the Salesforce platform for 15 years. She specializes in Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Field Service Lightning, and today she's going to tell you about some tips and tricks that she uses as a solution engineer in her day-to-day job, and also that she helps implement for her clients. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda. So we are going to start off with some introductions. Then we're going to go to some admin tricks. So that might be easy field creation, lightning record pages, comparing profiles more easily, and also quick link selection. Then we're going to go into the training tips and tricks. So that includes documentation, renaming AppExchange tabs and fields, and also driving adoption by helping to keep your users in the know. So we know adoption is one of the biggest challenges for our customers, so we'll be addressing that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about project management and a tool named Agile Accelerator. And then we'll get into the question and answer section at the end. So let's talk about a little bit of housekeeping first. So you probably noticed that you've all been muted. So if you have any questions at all, hover over your screen and you'll see a little chat icon. If you click on that, there'll be a panel on the right where you can type in any questions that you have. We'll be answering them at the end of the session today. And also we are recording this session, so we'll be able to send that out following the presentation if you want to reference it in the future. So without further ado, let me introduce Cheryl.
Thanks, Leanna. Thanks so much for the introduction. So I am going to jump right into my web browser screen so that we can get started with some of the items that I'll be showcasing. So some of the things that you see today, they're not going to be overly technical in nature, but when I was asked to do this webinar, I thought, okay, what are some of the things that I use every single day, or some of the things that I can't be as productive as I would like to be had I not been able to utilize some of these tools. So some of these, a lot of Salesforce admins will be familiar with, but some of them, maybe not. Some of them are related to different things that you can do in Salesforce. Others are not related to Salesforce at all, but just things that you do in your day-to-day as Salesforce administrators. I'm sure, as you all may know, we wear very many hats within the organization. Not only are we the Salesforce admin, sometimes we're the project manager, sometimes we are, gathering requirements. And there's usually only one of us, and we are responsible for a lot of different moving parts within an organization. So some of these tips and tricks are really designed, or I'm sharing these because they definitely do help you to do things a little more efficiently. So the model that I like to work by is work smarter, not harder. And anytime I find myself doing something over and over again, something that's needed, obviously, like training a user or, creating a field, I instantly say, okay, if this is going to be something that I'm doing consistently, I have to find a better way. I have to find a way that's going to allow me to do these tasks, but do them quickly because I have to be in so many other places and I need to make the most of my time. So the first thing I'm showing is a very popular tool, and it's called a toolkit for Salesforce. I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen this, but I definitely wanted to mention this as something that I use every single day, not only as a consultant, but also as an internal Salesforce administrator. So things like, from a consultant standpoint, things like Org Doctor. So what this portion of the tool does is it allows you to, it's a free tool. You enter in your Salesforce credentials, and from there, everything that you are looking for based on the Salesforce credentials that you've signed into is relevant to that instance of Salesforce. So as an example, this Org Doctor report, you put in your credentials, you log in, you select Org Doctor, and what this does is this gives you a analytics for the state of that organization. So it lets you know just different API versions, sort of like the Lightning Readiness Report, but with so much more. So this is a really cool feature if you're, initially stepping into an org, you've never, worked with within this Salesforce org, or you're taking over an org for an older Salesforce administrator. This is really helpful just to give you a sense of what's going on in that org and really help you to understand, what are some of the first steps that you need to take. And then you can pass this on to some other teams, and get their thoughts and, get them to thinking as, here's what my findings are, and you guys can, work together to make recommendations. But this is a very helpful tool and a very helpful report, and it tells a lot of details. Another cool thing about this tool is the option to do what's called Schema Builder. So there is a Schema Builder in Salesforce, as everyone may know, and it's a really cool feature. But what this Schema Builder does is it extracts whichever objects you select. It'll give you all of the field values that exist, when the last time those fields were used, what page and layouts they exist on. So this is probably one of my favorites, just to give you a sense of, okay, let's see just how many fields are being used on these specific objects. So when you're talking about cleaning up an org, or when you want to bring a field set to a business user, and you want to say, hey, you guys haven't used these fields in 2 years. Is this something that we can get rid of? Or do you want to have a further discussion about what this may have, what the intentions were initially? Maybe it could have been a project that was started but wasn't finished. But this definitely does drive some conversations, and it's really helpful. One of my favorite tools is probably Field Creator, and Field Creator is awesome because it enables you to create multiple fields in bulk. So if you can even insert a spreadsheet. So if you have an idea, or usually when we go into meetings with our business units or our customers, the first thing they have is some sort of list of the fields or the data they want to track. And normally we would take those fields and we would enter them one by one, either through the interface, or we use the Schema Builder in Salesforce to quickly get those fields in. But what this does is it enables you to select the object that you're going to add those fields to, and quickly either import that list, or you can enter them in sort of a one-by-one sort of fashion. So that's another really cool feature that I really like about this this tool. So if I wanted to add a new name field as an example, I can add a row, and continue to add those fields. And once you're done, you just deploy them all, and they're ready to go. So in terms of a time saver, this has really been sort of my go-to when I have a lot of fields that I need to enter. And then there's just some really cool features, other features that are available. If you wanted to do a data comparison between two objects, that's really helpful. So this is my number one go-to tool for being able to quickly manage certain things that I do throughout the day. Another tool that I use frequently is a tool that's called Profile Comparator. So what this tool does is essentially you can put two profiles in. So if you had, let's say for instance, a sales user and a customer service user, you can put the two profiles side by side, and then it would give you a comparison to say, okay, can this profile read accounts? Can they edit accounts? Can they delete accounts? And then you'd be able to see and compare that against another user to be able to make a determination about either extending or reducing the level of permissions based on profiles. And I believe you can use up to 3. Usually it's only 2 that I've used, but I believe you can use up to 3 to do a comparison. And again, you just log into your production, select your profiles, and it will let you know not only the field level and object level, but also if there's any user permissions that they have, and just other system permissions that you just want to check out and easily be able to make a comparison against. Another tool that I use frequently is if a customer has, or as an internal Salesforce administrator, if you have sales users who are on the go and they're primarily going to be using their Salesforce mobile app to check like reports and dashboards and do opportunities, there's a really cool app on the Google Web Store called Salesforce One Simulator. And essentially what this does is it gives you a really cool interface where you can not only test the page layouts that you create from a mobile device perspective, but it also allows you to quickly create those screenshots that you need if you're doing training. So you can have this mobile device right on your desktop and quickly just verify that your mobile page layouts and the functionality that you wanted from a mobile perspective is functioning as intended, and then there's not a need to log into your cell phone, take that screenshot, send it back, email it to yourself. I'm sure we've probably all been there, but this is a really cool app. It's only for Salesforce, so it's not like your typical mobile app, but Really cool feature, free feature that will enable you to have that option to be able to train and showcase with your users. Next is another tool. So let me go into a Salesforce instance so that I can show. So let's go to Agile Accelerator as an example, and we'll chat a little bit about what Agile Accelerator is as well. But what I wanted to show is there's a tool that is available called Select All, and I use this very often. So let's say, for instance, you have a record. This record has multiple related lists, and you want to quickly select those related lists. There's a tool here, and it's called uSelect, and what it is, it's a Google extension. So when I select this, it allows me to select both tabs, and once I push enter, those tabs open up for me in separate windows. So this eliminates the need where you right click, open up in another tab, or however you're managing the multiple records that we may need to open. You can use this uSelect tool, and this is not specific to Salesforce. It's specific to any web browser. So if you were to do a Google search and you wanted to quickly open up the first 3 links, you can use this uSelect tool. So once you select it, the screen goes gray to let you know that, hey, you're in this mode. You drag your mouse down. So if there were 50 links, you can absolutely open all of those, push enter, and it'll open those for you. So that saved me a tremendous amount of time. I mean, the seconds that it shaved off my day, you have no idea. But little things like that definitely do make a difference, especially when you're managing so many things. The ability to, again, work smarter instead of harder definitely comes into play here. So the next tool the next tip that I wanted to show that really helps or resonates, that I got a lot of feedback just from users in terms of, hey, this is really cool. I like how this has helped me, take in a little more on the page. When I say page, I mean records. Sometimes you may have records that have a lot of data, a lot of information, and from an end user's perspective, sometimes it can be a little hard to take in. So one tip that I use consistently when I'm creating a record page layout is I like to add quick text and organize things a little better so that it's more digestible for my end user. So simple things like this, definitely help your users use the system more or use the system as intended, because it allows them to say, okay, here's where I need to go to find specific information, or, this isn't as, a data overload because there's so many fields, there's so many moving parts. So if I just quickly go to edit page, I'll just show a little quick tip. And as I mentioned, these aren't over technical tips, but just things that, I find have really gone over well in either training users or, trying to drive that adoption. So in your Lightning uh, uh, page builder, you have what's called rich text. And usually what I do is I put like a little details here that will let the users know, for instance, here are your details. And this will be like a header that can be on their page. I can bold it, I can make it a little bigger. So then they know that anytime I'm looking for details for a record, it'll be here. And then as another example, maybe I'll put like a related list that resonates with them. So if they wanted to see what are my deals, or go here for deals as an example. Let me use one that's actually related to this record. Let's see what we have in our related list. So we have team members as an example. So if I wanted to label this team members, and I'll just do the same, just bold it. Obviously, you can use the colors that are aligned with your company branding. And then what I would do is I would add that single related list to this column. And instead of the entire related list, I maybe add one related list so that they can easily, let's just remove this. I don't want that one. A single. And we want to add team members. And then you can obviously always have your related list somewhere else, but The goal behind this is to give them the most important data first, where they can still get to all of the other stuff. But if you wanted to call out what they should be looking at first or what's more important, obviously everything is important, but there are some things that they work, if there are some things that they utilize more often, then you want to call those on the forefront. So what that looks like, I'll just activate this as a default. So now as an end user, when I come into my record page layout, I'm able to see, you know, in the small real estate that's been offered to me from a resolution perspective, I'm able to see the information that's most important to me categorized in a way where I get it. So I know here's my details. So if I wanted to see full related, I can see here, and then I can see team members if I, you know, was looking at this record, and I can quickly, you know, just get that information. So this can be used and it can be applied to several different use cases, but just I find that organizing your record layouts definitely makes it a lot digestible to users. And one other cool tip and trick about these texts is, let's say for instance, you wanted to show a user a error message or some sort of alert here, you can make this text rendered dynamically. So if I wanted to say if this user came to this record and the record was active, I can show active here and say only show this text if this box is true. So that's just some additional things that you can do to make things easier, you know, reduce the number of page layouts that you have, reduce the number of record types that you have, because usually, you know, we have record types when we want to display specific data based on, you know, some attributes. So this is just an additional way that you can sort of bypass that record type need and have the ability to, you know, render text based on, you know, specific attributes, or, you know, just categorize it in this way. So that covers some of the simple tips and tricks that I use and some of the tools that I use from an administration perspective. Now I want to segue into some things that we can do to make our life easier from a training perspective. So we chatted about, you know, the tools that you have, and we talked about how as Salesforce administrators, we are extremely, you know, busy at times assisting, you know, different groups and, you know, taking requirements and meeting with different stakeholders to try to, you know, assist them with projects that they may have. So oftentimes we are all over the place. But we still have to manage our internal users. Like we still have users that are asking us questions, that are logging cases, that, you know, want us to train them or assist them with, you know, different things that they may, you know, have. And what I find is as you get more involved with different organizations, like if you're working with sales and you're working with marketing, more user groups become interested and they want to have a part in Salesforce. They want to use it. They, you know, understand it's a great tool. It solves a lot. And so what they do is they'll come to you, and, you know, everyone will have more projects, so that becomes more on your plate and less time that you can devote to your end users. So what I recommend is that it's always helpful to have a place where users can go within your Salesforce org to find documentation for frequently asked questions. And I'm sure we probably do set some of these things up, but one of the things that I find that is tremendously helpful is creating videos and how to specifically for your organization. Now there's lots of videos and documentation from a Salesforce perspective that, you know, are tremendously helpful, but sometimes there are process specific items that you would really be the person that everyone would go to and ask for assistance for, or, you know, hoping that you can give them some understanding as to what are those process specific items that they need to understand in order to, you know, function correctly on the solution. So what I recommend is there's a tool called Screencast-O-Matic. And this is a recording tool, and it's super simple. Like if you can add a filter to your Instagram pictures, or you can upload a Facebook picture, or send a direct message, or do a tweet, then it's that simple. And the reason why I like this tool is because of its simplicity. Not only is it in the cloud, so that means that you can, if you're stationed at work and you want to, you know, quickly just, you know, show a user how they go through the opportunity process, or what some of the fields mean on an opportunity, or how they complete a specific function. You can do that in the office, or you can do that home. There's also an app on the App Exchange for both Android and Apple. So if you wanted to, you know, record something on your phone, if you were not using the simulator here, and you wanted to record something on your phone, you can do that as well. This also enables you to you record your screen, and you can export this to YouTube. You can save it as a file on your desktop, and then you can have that in like a chatter group. So you create a chatter group and you post those videos for your users to see. And you add all of your users to your chatter group. So as you create those videos, users will get alerts, and they can quickly do the training and take those courses at their leisure. Another great thing about this is that when you have new users that just start, so another tip and trick is in your welcome message. So when you, in your Salesforce instance, you have the email alerts. That's essentially the welcome messages that when you create a new user, they get an email. What I would recommend is in that email template, you put a little introduction about yourself. So when they get their credentials, it'll say, hi, user, my name is Cheryl Morrison. I'm your Salesforce administrator. I'm here to help you with X, Y, and Z. Here are 3 video links that can get you started. And here's some recommended trailheads to get you started. So can you just imagine, like, you sent that user everything that they need to, that they need to get started without having to have a separate session, meet with that specific user or those new users that just started, taking time away from your day. Now, it's not going to be the 100% solution for all users. I've had users where my welcome email has been enough to get them started and they have no questions. And then you still will have some users that do have questions, but take that feedback or those questions from the users that do and make your content better, so that the next group of users, you've sort of answered some of those questions. And these little tips have a tremendous impact in saving you time and allowing you to, service up your entire workforce. So, and also in terms of training and documentation, another tip that I wanted to show is there are often times where we're communicating with users and we're saying the same things over and over. Like for instance, I say Salesforce a lot, so I have what's called quick text. So if I type in Salesforce, it'll type Salesforce. I always end with a nice greeting. So when I type in best BR, it'll type best regards. I always say, please let me know if you have any questions. So I'll do PLK and it says, please let me know if you have any questions. I'll sometimes have please review and let me know if you have any questions. So these are things that I type consistently. So as I'm jotting emails to either end users or stakeholders, these are just quick text that I consistently use. If you have like page layouts or some sort of jargon or company acronyms that you use that you want to spell out, what you do is you can, in your Word, and this would work in Word, it would work in Skype, it would work in Outlook, PowerPoint, any Microsoft program really. So what you would do is you would go to your settings in Outlook. You would go to, it's been a while, I haven't added some in a while. You go with options, and then you go to proofing and then autocorrect options. So for instance, if I wanted to do PL and I wanted to change PL to, let me cancel this for a second. It's just options, proofing, autocorrect options. If I wanted to do PL and I wanted to say that this will be page layout, and then I add it, and another one may be, let's see, FSL, and then I wanted to say that that will be field service lightning as an example. Once I come back to my page and I do PL, I now have page layout, FSL, field service lightning, maybe that one didn't take, or I may have had a typo, but these very, very small, tips definitely save your life. And there's no limit to the help text. So I was able to type an entire sentence. So some things like, just different things that you consistently, type or, abbreviate or type out, you definitely could, as a tip and trick for your documentation, incorporate those quick text, and it definitely saves you some time. So that's just a really quick non-technical tip that I had in thinking of things that I use every day. The next item I wanted to show is Agile Accelerator. So I'm not going to really dive too deep into the training aspect of the Agile Accelerator, but I did want to chat about this free tool because one of the things that I struggled with when I was initially a Salesforce administrator responsible for a couple different groups, and at the time it was just myself, no other administrator, and it was, you know, me trying to either build something from scratch that would allow me to manage all of my projects, or I was using Excel, which, you know, as a Salesforce administrator, we know that if it's in Excel, it can be in Salesforce, but sometimes you just don't really have the time to build something out for yourself to allow you to manage your projects, but you still need some sort of management tool. So the really cool thing that I like about this is that it enables you to manage all of your tasks. It's in Salesforce. It's free, which is always a winner. And it's really robust to allow you to, you know, if you wanted to present to to your stakeholders, you know, how long it would take you to complete some task based on other items and other priorities that you have. You'll have the data to drive that conversation. Like you can say, okay, I have 3 high priority items. They're in this phase of the project. I've estimated that these will take X amount of time. So I anticipate me being able to give you your project in however many days. So the metrics behind this are really powerful, but also just the ability to be able to manage your projects, you know, rather that be sprints, different tasks. Users can also, so let's say for instance, you have a project to roll out Sales Cloud. You're tracking all of your time in the Agile Accelerator and you roll it out to the users. Users will also be able to log cases using the out-of-box case functionality against your project, and you can check and log all of the defects or all of any of the issues that the users may have. And it really tells a pretty cool story at the end of the project where you can see, and then that knowledge will allow you to understand or give better estimates the next time you have a similar project. So you'll instead of, you know, giving estimates, you'll be able to say, well, you know, let me pull up the data. I see that a Service Cloud implementation that we did in the past based on some of the similar requirements and factors took this long. So I'm pretty confident that this will be the estimate just based on, you know, some of the data that we have from another project. So once you go ahead and install this application in your org, it'll be available to, you know, whomever you want to expose it to. So you can, if there's multiple Salesforce administrators, there's no user limit. So it can be available to your Salesforce administrators. You can give this up, you can give access to your stakeholders. So if they wanted to see really like reporting, or they want to know where my project is, or how much time do I have on my project, this tool is really helpful for that. And while we're on the subject of install packages, another thing that I noticed is sometimes when you install a package, it's great, it's awesome, but there are some things that won't resonate with your end users, like for instance, field names. And we all know if you have an install package, as an example, sometimes they do not allow you to change field names. So actually, I want to go to the translation bench. So sometimes if you have a install package where they may label a, let's say they label a tab, let me go to one example so we can use one as an example. So I'm just going to go to the translation workbench and I'm going to override. Now this translation workbench, this is not what this was intended for. It was really intended for you to change the name of tabs based on specific language. So for instance, if you had multiple languages in your org and you wanted to translate something to Spanish that may not have auto been translated, you would use this. But it's also a way that you can take managed packages, like as an example, a TaskRay is a managed package that we have in this org, and I wanted to change the name of a field. I can specify the object. So let's say it was actually on, wait, let's go override again. Oh, translate. And then, wait, see. So if I wanted to do TaskRay, and I wanted to do a custom field, And it's basically letting me know all of the fields that exist within this managed package and the fields that exist at the account level. So as an example, if I wanted to change desired outcomes, so that's the name of the field that this package gave me, desired outcomes. And maybe that's something that we want to use, it meets our needs, but we don't want to call it desired outcomes. Well, because this is an app exchange package, and for those of you on the call that are not familiar with what the app exchange is, so the app exchange, if I had to compare it to something for admins, I would say it's like, you know, when you were a kid and you got the Toys R Us pamphlet in the mail and you were so excited about it, you saw all the toys, you were excited. Same thing for Salesforce admins. It's a place we go, and it has all of these cool applications that you can download to extend the functionality of your Salesforce instance. So it's like an app on your cell phone. Technically, your cell phone's it's supposed to only be used to make calls, but you want to get on Instagram, Facebook, you want to do some other things. You want to install those applications, and you're extending what your cell phone is able to do. So the same idea with the app exchange. So it has all of these applications that you can download. I'll quickly just go just for anyone that's on the call that may not have maybe seen the app exchange. But basically, let's say, for instance, if you were looking for a tool for project management, and this is what Agile Accelerator is. It's actually an app exchange package where you would, I'll just choose one for an example. Here's actually TaskRay. So you would just download this into your org and everything that it says that it does. So this is like a customer onboarding application. So that would allow you, and some of the applications are free, some of them are paid. But once you install that application, all of the field names essentially belong to this app, and you're not able to change the name. So what I'm showing here is that I've downloaded TaskRay. TaskRay has given me a field called desired outcomes. I know what desired outcomes are based on looking at the TaskRay documentation, but it means nothing to my team. My team will call this, like, we would change the name. We call this wants. And once I change this, everything for desired outcomes, whether that be a tab, whether that be a field, if it's on reports, it'll automatically change. And then my end users will know that desired outcomes are actually wants. And so it's just a cool little, hack that you have available if you are struggling with, this app exchange package is awesome, but the field names just won't resonate with my users. It's just something that you can do, or something that you can implement to enable your users to be able to, utilize the system and understand things a little better than they would had they not had, these simple updates that you've made and incorporated. So I think that brings me to everything. I know we have a little more time to go. So I think we can pause here, and I can take some questions if anyone had any questions about anything that we showed here today. I know we did wrap up a little earlier, but I'll take a pause here, and then I'll ask the team if there's any questions that have come up, or if anyone would like to see anything additional related to anything that they've seen so far.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for going through that. So I'll read out any questions that we get in the chat. As a reminder for everybody on the webinar, all you have to do is hover over your screen and click the chat icon, and you can type in questions, and then we'll answer them right now live. So the first one we have is from Sarah. And Cheryl, the question is, can you host non-video documentation within Screencast-O-Matic as well?
Non-video documentation. So Cast-O-Matic is specifically for video, but you can still create your own documentation and upload that into Salesforce. So you can still create like those Word documents, and then you would just, have let's see if we have any chatter groups here. Let me just go to chatter. See what we have. So as a sample, as an example of what a chatter, what chatter looks like in your system, what you can do is you can just upload your document. So you can if it was a video, you can upload it. It would look to wherever you want it to go in terms of if you wanted it to be a video, if you wanted it to be a document. But what I would suggest is create a chatter group that's something like internal users or, training. So when your users are, searching for relevant content, they know where they could go for maybe company announcements or Salesforce updates or just training. So that's the first thing, is to create your groups. And then you can add content, whether it be a poll, like some of the things or some of the polls that I've asked is, what does everyone think about the new page layout? Is it easier to use? Do you guys like it? And then you can get feedback that way. So you can also attach your documents here. You can attach your videos here. And then that way, anything that you add, like if a user wanted to know, how do I create an account, or what's my opportunity process, they can search and it will pull up that document as well. So they don't always have to go to the chatter group to find it. But if they were just interested one day just to see what was out there, they navigate directly there. But they also have the option to search for those documents or that content that you add as well.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Does anybody else have any questions for Cheryl about the tips and tricks that she uses, or questions while working remote? All right, doesn't look like there are any other questions. Cheryl, do you have any last-minute recommendations for everybody who's on while they're, potentially working remote during these times?
Absolutely. So one of the things is that you can always, there's always things that you can look at independently that can help you in the long run, like, finding Salesforce user groups, or, finding those users that have, mock Salesforce test exams that are really helpful to prepare you for taking your certifications. I also recommend that anything that you come across, I have a laundry list, but anything that you come across, like articles or, different formula fields, or anything that you come across that you may be able to repurpose it, to always save it as a favorite. Because what I've learned is that sometimes when you go to search for some of these things, they're either not available or it's extremely hard to find it. So I try to make it a habit to create a folder for all Salesforce related things. And really, even if it's an article on how to manage governance, or, how to, better manage my projects, I always keep things organized in a way where, then I have training tools. So there's my recording tool, how to do, mass updates, and then code helpers. So if there's like a tool, for instance, like there's this HTML editor that I use. So if I was, writing something, like let's say, for instance, I wanted to say, have a good day, and then I can click on the source, and this would give me the HTML code that is essentially this have a good day. So it's going to format it for me, and all I would need to do is copy and paste it and maybe put that in a Visualforce page. So there's a lot of tools and tricks that you can, search for, but just make sure that you save them and have like sort of this toolkit available that you can reference at any time. There's always, little things that you come across that, not only save you time, but that you can consistently use over and over and over. So that's just another tip that I have. As I mentioned, it's not going to be an overly technical webinar, but just little things that, you'd be surprised at the impact that they have as you're, using them throughout your day.
Awesome, great advice, Cheryl. So let's wait one more minute. Does anybody have any additional questions for Cheryl, whether it was related to the webinar contact or just recommendations? Let us know. And while anybody's writing any last questions, Cheryl, I want to say, I think it's great advice to leverage the great Salesforce ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And one tool that I use actually is the Salesforce Ohana chat and Slack. So that's a great resource if you guys aren't already a part of that. It's a lot of Salesforce professionals that you can message about a variety of questions, whether it's resources or questions you have about Salesforce or upcoming exams. So that's a really great tool.
Yeah.
And so Sarah, it's actually a Slack tool. It's in Slack, and it's a channel called Salesforce Ohana. So if anybody wants to be added to that, just let me know. I'll get you added. All right, great. So I think that's everything that we had today. I did want to reiterate, we are recording this session, so we'll send it out if anybody you know couldn't make it, or you want to come back and revisit this, as you might have a couple of minutes this week or next. And on that topic, feel free to reach out to me or Cheryl at any time. Cheryl, would you mind putting up, we do have a slide with just our contact information if anybody wants to write that down. As hopefully you're implementing some of these throughout this week or next. Feel free to just reach out to us at any time. We're of course available. And then last but not least, I just want to say thank you again. Really appreciated having everybody on today and the great questions. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Yep. Thanks,
Thanks.
Leanna. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.